The president speaking from the Roosevelt room this morning. The February jobs report is out. 311,000 jobs added in the last month. Unemployment rate now at 3.6%. There's a lot to chew on there. The president talked about his plan to trim $3 trillion in deficit over the next decade or so. It's really a drop in the bucket, makes a pretty small dent in a $33 trillion deficit that could swell to $51 trillion. A lot of big numbers that we're talking about. How does that impact you? I think we should get into it a little bit here. Joining us this morning is Professor Emeritus of Economics at the University of Maryland, Peter Morici. Great to see you. Okay, so where should we start? I guess with Biden's budget is a good place. He's going to tax the rich over $400,000. Anyone who makes more than that will see taxes. Did you hear any specifics there about other things that he plans to do moving forward that stood out?
Well, I think there's some items in there that are likely to become law. The Republicans have to remember that they hold 1/2 of 1/3 of the United States government, or maybe 1/4 of the political bodies, to do a lot of math. So they're going to have to compromise. If they want some spending cuts, fine. They're going to have to go along with some tax increases. Now, there's some familiar objects in there, like the carried interest, S corps, and so forth. Those are widely abused loopholes by rich folks and by middle class people as well that could be sealed and generate some revenue. But overall, I think this was a political speech. It's a political budget. It's a lot of tax increases that I don't think Democrats even want to come to fruition, because they didn't vote for them when they had control. Raising marginal tax rates in New York City to above 60%, Chuck Schumer will need going out of business signs to plaster all over the place for all of the real estate that would plummet as people exited.
Well, the other thing that really stood out is the president and Republicans are going to have a face-off over the national debt and raising the debt ceiling. He said Republicans are proposing 25% cuts across the board, which is maybe the most specific thing we've heard, because Republicans have been criticized for not laying out their plan. The president addressing that. He also said there's not much to negotiate on. So where do they go from here?
Well, the president has got an enormous advantage. All presidents do. A majority in Congress is a cacophony of voices, and it's hard for them to reach consensus, to come up with a budget. And they don't have the Office of Management and Budget at their disposal to crank all the math and come up with a budget within a month, the way the president does. So by challenging them to table a budget as opposed to just a list of cuts, he's saying, play on my home field. And they're foolish enough to go along with it. Until the Republicans have a clear set of proposals, they can count on the president being able to use the data to make his case in a way that helps his reelection. We just heard that now, how he's doing all these things to help working families. Let me give you some data that the Republicans could use, but I haven't heard them. One of them is that the real incomes of Americans, adjusted for inflation, are down about 7.5% or 8% on the president's watch. They rose about 12% during the Trump recovery. Americans had lower taxes and more real income to use during the Trump recovery than they do now during the Biden recovery. This is just data. I'm not trying to be partisan here. The Republicans could use that, but instead the president is using this budget and the bully pulpit to gain the initiative in a political discussion. This isn't really about the debt ceiling. It's about the 2024 election.
Right. Well, and when you talk about the debt ceiling, I think it's important to add some historical perspective. I mean, since 1900, every single U.S. president, other than Calvin Coolidge and Warren Harding, increased the national debt. So it's happened time and time again. You know, we can debate all day long the bigger implications of that. The other thing that the president said, and I want to get some data from you, is the impact of rising interest rates. You had a reporter ask that question. What are the specifics as we wait for the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, to come out next week?
Well, with regard to rising interest rates, they're having a much broader effect than just housing. We keep hearing the media say, and people at the Federal Reserve, well, it primarily affects housing. We just had 2 bank failures in California that had a lot to do with rising interest rates. The first one, cryptocurrency was involved. The second one, what caused a panic yesterday in the stock market on financial stocks, had nothing to do with cryptocurrency. It had to do with the fact that rising interest rates, this is complex, but basically lower the value of assets on the books of banks. And as a consequence, the bank that failed is kind of like a small town bank. It has a cluster of depositors all in the same industries. It was very much like the bank the bank the bank rush in the daily and It's a Wonderful Life and at the Bailey Savings and Loan. It was a very sad experience, and that should be something the federal government can do something about, but doesn't. Commercial real estate in big cities, we're starting to see defaults. That's going to reverberate through the system. So interest rates are working, but as they always have, they take about a year to 18 months to have their consequences. With regard to the CPI, the president has had his thumb on the scale of that thing pretty well by releasing oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve and driving down gas prices. That can't go on forever because eventually we run out of oil in the Strategic Reserve and then the global price will go up. I expect the inflation number to come in at about 0.4 or 0.5%, depending on which measure you use. If the situation is better, it's only marginally better. And we're getting to the point that's it's like a lot of problems. If you have a really big problem, cutting it in half is not that hard. Getting rid of the other half is terribly hard. Getting inflation down to 2%, given what we have just been through and how much federal deficits have increased, now to be bipartisan under both the Trump and Biden presidencies, the deficit is now much, much larger than it was. It's very, very hard to constrain the economy and pull in inflation with higher interest rates alone.
Well, inflation fatigue, I think all of America is feeling that. And you're right when you say that this is about 2024. Peter Morici, thank you for the data this morning. Really interesting. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.